Baldur's Gate 3, don't be fooled by video games. I don't know, this is a small creator. We'll see how that's like. We'll see how the video goes. Letting a perfect computer be my DM. I don't know, man. It's kind of I kind of like the imperfection of DMs who are just on the fly letting you do cool shit. So I don't know. It's gonna be fun because I really like Divinity Original Sin 2. I'm sure it'll be good.
Playing over 50 hours of early access myself, I'm here to tell you that Baldur's Gate 3 is not for everyone. To all of you RPG fans out there, if you're sitting on the fence about this game, then this video will be very useful, and I will explain why now. Baldur's Gate 3 is set in the world of and heavily influenced by 5th edition of Dungeons & Dragons, and because of this, it has entire volumes of rules which influence every single possible interaction across the whole game. However, just because it is heavily inspired and influenced by these rules, it doesn't mean that you need to be a seasoned D&D player. Even if you have no experience playing D&D like myself, it doesn't mean that you can't become fully invested in this game and enjoy the beautiful storytelling that comes with it. And here comes the but. But, because Baldur's Gate 3 sticks so closely to these D&D rules, it's absolutely necessary to point out that going into this experience, you need to be aware that there is a huge difference between an RPG, an ARPG, and a CRPG. Because Baldur's Gate is a CRPG. Just because you like games like The Witcher, Fallout, and Diablo, which are all RPGs and ARPGs, doesn't automatically make Baldur's Gate 3 a game that you'll enjoy, but it does help. So what exactly is a CRPG? Well, CRPG stands for Computer RPG, in other words, a computer role-playing game. Essentially, you're role-playing on a computer as if you had your very own D&D character.
I mean, I feel like people who don't know that going into Baldur's Gate 3, I don't know, man. Like you'd really have to be like disconnected from like any kind of media, any kind of coverage. Like, how the hell did you even learn about the game? You should understand this part of it. Like this part, I don't know. That's a little bit. I don't know. It's like yeah, obviously, you should know that this is a CRPG and that the computer is going to be the DM of the game.
CRPGs reflect the speed of tabletop games by being very tactical with elements of turn-based combat. Within that, the rules of D&D apply to everything that you do, meaning that sometimes you want to do things and a roll of the dice can be the difference between allowing or denying success. So, with this inherent likeness to D&D, it means that character progression and development is extremely deep and personal. It completely changes the way the game plays and the way that everything in the environment reacts to your choices.
So here's the thing that I'm not sure how you're gonna go about it. I'm curious what you're gonna do. Learn your game. I think that I'm gonna advocate for my friends that we go through and we don't F5 to like do different roles. Like, and so if we fail something, we let it be canonical, kind of like D&D. If you fail, you fail, right? I'm curious what your group's gonna do. Are you gonna F5 a lot and just like play out? Oh, we failed. Let's roll again. Oh, we failed. Let's roll again. Or are you gonna save that for other playthroughs where you can save scum and have a good time with it? I'm curious how you're gonna go about it because it's not like Divinity, where Divinity was very. I don't feel like Divinity was a game where it was like meant for you to fail and like, you know, part of your character developing in D&D is failing. I don't think Divinity was really made for that, so it's a little different than that. So I don't know if I'm gonna save scum for for interactions with NPCs. Probably for fights, just to make sure I can get the encounter done and our friends don't die during the encounter. But like overall, when it comes to like relationships and like building those friendships and things like that, I don't know if I'm gonna actually like F5 reroll to see what we did. Curious what you're gonna do.
It's a far cry from something like an action RPG like Diablo, where you speedily mow down countless mobs in a nightmare dungeon with your godlike character, min-maxing at every opportunity, trying to clear dungeons faster.
And to be real, what he just said, you can definitely still do that in D&D. D&D still allows for you to go around and mow down monsters eventually. I mean, players get really powerful at some point, and I think the game ends at the point where they start to get strong. I think it ends at level 12, and in D&D, you definitely get to a point where, like, nothing really is that scary anymore because you have an answer for it, unless you're going against, like, a demigod or a god. So
and faster with speed, gear, and skill combined. In Baldur's Gate 3, things are much more realistic, at least as realistic as you can get in a fantasy role-playing game. Choices and actions matter significantly. Even if in the moment you don't realise it, choosing to do one action over another can have a butterfly effect that completely changes your journey, for better or worse, creating a truly unique experience for you. This distinction between a CRPG and other RPGs is significant and not to be overlooked. This genre of gaming is much more personal. You're likely to spend an hour just in the character creator screen alone when first loading into the game, because when this game launches, there's going to be over 11 races with 28 sub-races, from which you'll also need to choose between 12 or more classes, which in turn have over 40 subclasses.
So I wonder how in-depth
the classes that you can pick in this game range from anything from a cleric, a fighter, a ranger, a rogue, a warlock, a wizard, a druid, a sorcerer, a barbarian, a bard, a paladin, and a monk, all of which have their own unique playstyle. The decisions you make before you even play the game for a minute will entirely influence hours of gameplay, hours of cinematics, and how individuals within the game might interact with your character. It can affect which companions you might or might not be able to take with you, which in turn will affect the story further based on these individuals' likes, dislikes, and desires. All of these things combined, creating a completely unique experience for your playthrough every time that you...
I will say the biggest down thing that I have for Baldur's Gate 3 is that the party limit's 4. I wish the party limit could go higher than 4. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be mods eventually that we're going to be like, yo, your party can be unlimited. But, like, I like 8-player parties a lot for D&D. I know that sounds really crazy and hectic and, like, overwhelming sometimes. But, I don't know, there's something about 8 players that, like, I just like that everyone has something they want to do and, like, they all have their own goals. And, like, yeah, it's difficult to get to those goals sometimes when there's so many people. But there also is a lot of opportunities for split party things like that. Like you can split the party in fun ways. And I know people always say don't split the party, but like really, sometimes you just kind of have to. And if both parties split up are still significantly strong enough, you don't really have to hold back as much. You can still give them really cool and like hands-on things to deal with. While otherwise, if it's a small party and you split them off in a half, then that's like 2 people, right? 2 people per group is just not that good. So also with more people in the split party, you can like you can still do some character development because there's a lot more opportunities for character interactions with smaller groups divided from that big group. And then the absence of those people being in the group, eventually the reunion of those groups feels so good when they come back together. So
play with a new character. In terms of the scope of this game, it's absolutely huge. The developers have suggested that if you were to only focus on the main story and not deviate from that by exploring or doing side missions, you're looking at anywhere between 60 to 80 hours of gameplay with a single playthrough if you're being efficient.
See, I heard 120.
For context, I personally have over 50 hours in this game purely from the early access area, which consists of only the first act of the game. So by putting that logic across 4 acts within a game, it could be a 200+ hour game for me on a single playthrough because I'm a curious player. When you play Baldur's Gate 3, expect long cutscenes and to be invested heavily into the story while finding out how your character fits into the world. If you go into this game expecting some form of crazy combat mechanics, you might be slightly disappointed. I feel like these are extremely important factors to be highlighted to anyone seriously considering playing Baldur's Gate 3. Because for the price on release, it's not a cheap game. In my personal opinion, the game is worth significantly more than the asking price at the moment, especially when you compare it to a lot of modern release game standards. So I guess what I'm saying at this point is, don't expect a full, fast-paced, geared-up ARPG experience, because you will be disappointed. Now, to not be disappointed, you'll have to be the type of person that wants to invest your time into something that feels like a heavily personalized and unique, slower type of game with multiple ways to tackle every situation and no real right or wrong answer. You can be as good or evil, as stealthy or aggressive, as out of the box or as basic as you want to be, and still progress through the game. If that type of gameplay sounds appealing to you, you would be a fool to miss out on this title. And when you eventually do play this game, my personal advice after my 50 hours of playing is to take the dice as they come. If you fail a roll that you really wanted to pass, just take the hit.
Yeah, I agree. I agree on this part. This part right here, 100% in this video, is like, I've already stated it, like, if you fail a roll, I really do feel like that's probably something we should, like, stick to in our group, in my group's rules. If we fail a roll for, like, a check, let it go. I think combat's a little different. If we're trying to get past a combat encounter, I feel like we can definitely F5, re-roll, try to, like, get an idea of, like, what we're doing, just because, like, combat's so difficult to, like, balance. We could go in, and I think that, like, because of the fact that the people I'm playing with in Baldur's Gate 3 are such veterans in D&D, their character's probably gonna be really strong. We'll probably have no problem at all. But I don't really want to deal with, like, the problem of, like, oh, we failed this combat encounter. Well, that player's now dead. That doesn't seem fun. So, I think if it was an actual D&D game, I think death is really cool in D&D. If you can get a really good side quest to go, like, save that person or resurrect them. But in a game like this, I don't feel like it's going to be really fun. So,
experience the game in its truest form. If you play like this, your playthrough will become a truly unique experience and one that you'll likely remember fondly indefinitely. So yeah, within this video, I really wanted to make the clarification that there is a huge difference between different types of RPGs, and maybe this game isn't for everyone, and people should be fully aware of what they're getting into before they invest into it. I'll be making another video on Baldur's Gate 3 post-launch, after I've managed to get through all of the story, and I'll give it an official review. If you've enjoyed this video, let me know what you're most excited about in Baldur's Gate 3 in the comments. Until next time, see you later.
Hell yeah, dude. Good video. Honestly.
10,000 hours.
Good video. I like this guy. Level-headed take. Give him a like. Give him a follow. Video games. I'm going to post this video in chat. If you guys give him a follow, it'd be great. But yeah, we got more videos to watch here. Baldur's